Sunday, September 4th. Big day for me. 22 years old.
We're jumping into it.
Yeah, I'm getting old.
Yeah.
I'm getting old. Time's going by quick. It was a good night of fights over in Paris yesterday, but it was morning for us. It started at 10 in the morning. It was a good day of fights, yeah. That's how we should say it, but it was prime time France over there. It was pretty good. It wasn't the craziest exciting card as far as knockouts went, but I mean there was still some. The first fight was pretty good. You weren't here for that yet, but I believe it's Stephanie Egger. Yeah, she did good. Good to see her bounce back after her loss against Bueno Silva. Come back with another win. 8-3 now. France did go 5-0. All the French fighters won yesterday.
Yeah, they did. It's rigged.
You think it's rigged?
It's gotta be rigged.
Clean sweep.
It's gotta be rigged.
Hazard passed it pretty good. One judge did give it to Makdessi. He had a higher output in that third round. He started kind of putting it on, but it was just a little too late. Hazard had surpassed him at that point. I don't know. Charles Jourdain was kind of a bummer fight for me. He was a big prospect. I mean, I think he lost his last fight here. Yeah, he did lose to Shane Burgos, who no longer is in the UFC. But Shane Burgos was a ranked guy. It was a big step up in competition for Charles Jourdain from Canada. I didn't know that was Canada that he's from. Nathaniel Wood is who ended up beating him. See here, he's been in the UFC a little bit. The featherweight division, it's always good to see new up-and-comers come in. Lost to Casey Kennedy, beat Charles Rosa, and Charles Jourdain. Nathaniel Wood looked pretty good. He out-wrestled him.
What about Paulo? Who does Paulo fight next?
Paulo Costa?
Yeah.
I don't even know. Let's see here at the middleweight rankings. Jared Cannonier was supposed to fight Sean Strickland. Sean Strickland had to pull out. I don't know. Paulo Costa fought Vettori already, and Vettori beat him, so I don't know if he can really jump up and fight Whittaker. I don't know. He might have to fight down. He might have to fight like a Jack Hermanson, or maybe a Darren Till, if Darren Till ever does decide to get healthy.
Do you think so?
I think those are the only ones that I can really see here fighting down. Maybe Kelvin Gastelum, but I don't know about that. I think Gastelum and Brad Tavares would be an interesting matchup. Yeah, I don't know. I really would like to see Paulo Costa go up to light heavyweight. I think there's bigger fights for him to be had there. I mean, he could jump in and fight an Anthony Smith or Dominic Reyes, even though I think Dominic Reyes has a fight against Ryan Spann. It's a good comeback fight for Reyes. He's only fought the best. He was undefeated till he fought John Jones. Then he lost to Jan Blachowicz after, and then he lost to Yuri Prohaska. So, I mean, he's been fighting the top guys, so this fight with Ryan Spann is going to be an interesting matchup that we'll talk about later when it ends up coming up.
You think Robert Whittaker...
Who he fights?
Yeah, fights Israel next. Third time.
I don't know. I don't know if he gets a title fight off of that. I don't know. The UFC, the middle. I know Izzy does want to go back up to 205 and try that out at 205. I just don't know how many fights away he is from that. And I don't know what Whittaker does. I don't know who he'd fight. Brunson doesn't make any sense. I mean, he fought Cannonier and beat him. He fought Vettori and beat him. I mean, he's the number one contender. Maybe you could do a Paulo Costa Whittaker, but that just doesn't make a whole lot of sense for Whittaker. He said he wants to fight up, and he wants to fight for the belt. Maybe you can do Whittaker and Adesanya 3 after Izzy defends his belt against Pereira.
Yeah. Whittaker probably needs another fight before he fights Izzy again.
That's how I feel, too. He's 0-2 against him. His second fight was better. It went the distance, and he got knocked out in the first one. So, but I mean, Izzy didn't beat Vettori the way that Whittaker beat Vettori. But also, it was a 3-round fight, not a 5-round fight. And they do tend to play out differently. The gas gets used differently.
So he just beat Vettori, lost to Izzy before that. Then he fought Gastelum last year in April, and then Cannonier in 2020 in October until in 2020 in July.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it'd be interesting to see who he fights next.
I just don't know who makes a lot of sense for him. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe an Alex Pereira if he loses to Adesanya. Maybe they could fight, and that could be it. I don't know if Alex Pereira gets back into the title picture that quickly, but I don't know. It's an interesting matchup there. I'm not sure what you do with Vettori at this point. He did fight Paulo Costa at 205, which is light heavyweight, and he beat him there. And Paulo Costa's the bigger fighter. I don't know. Maybe that could be on the table for Vettori. I never really thought about it, but I mean, maybe he could fight Brunson. I think Brunson's got to fight though. Maybe Brunson's fighting Hermanson. I don't know. I could be wrong about that.
How many fights out of a title fight do you think Vettori is? He lost a title fight to Izzy in 2021 in June.
Yeah, it wasn't a great fight either. I don't think anyone's really interested to rewatch that. I don't know. I think now he's 3 or 4 pretty solid wins. I mean, a finish or 2. Maybe if he gets 3 finishes in a row, impressive finishes, that he could be back in the title picture, but I don't know. That loss really did set him back, and I just think he's straight up. I don't know if anyone, like Whittaker said, I don't think anyone's underestimating him, but I almost feel like he did. He just, maybe he'd seen tape, but he just didn't think that that's the Robert Whittaker that was going to show up fight night, and that is the Robert Whittaker that showed up. So I don't really know what you do there.
I mean,
I think some fun matchups to look at. I mean, I don't know if fun, but I guess we can talk about the main event. Cyril Gane, Tai Tuivasa, UFC Paris, the first one there. It was a hard fight to watch for me. I think Tuivasa's a pretty big fan favorite. And I know that Cyril Gane was definitely the hometown favorite, and you felt that Tuivasa had boos coming when he was walking out. I mean, but they're in France, so that's kind of to be expected. But I don't know, man. It was a great fight. If you look at the numbers here, I mean, Cyril threw 168 strikes and landed 110 of them. To Tuivasa's 89 strikes thrown, 29 landed. The thing with, it's just a stylistic matchup that doesn't favor the brawler, where Tai Tuivasa is a get in your face, let's stand and bang and see who's tougher. And that he hits hard, and you saw that when he knocked down Cyril Gane in the second round. I mean, he hits hard. But when you I just think to be a UFC champion, you need technical striking is what's needed really to become a champion. I think you see it with Stipe. He's more technical. He's not just a brawler. Francis Ngannou, I mean, that guy, he might be the exception. Well, he's technical though. He's a kickboxer. He out-wrestled Cyril Gane last time, which was interesting to see that they actually went to the ground, and it was a pretty good fight. I don't know. He had his moment in the second round. He needed the problem with fighting Cyril Gane for Tuivasa is anytime he was walking into him, he was going to eat 2 or 3 strikes on the way in.
Yeah, he was.
But the way that I watched it after we watched it the second time is he was getting popped regardless. Cyril Gane kept distance and was popping him with jabs and low kicks and then an occasional head kick. And he'd just sit there and pop him. So it's like when he circles around and waits for his moment, he's still getting popped. And he's seen that where he would stand up and like tell him to hit him again, and he wouldn't defend him. He was getting frustrated in there, and Cyril Gane recovered. He said he got knocked out, and he come back and ended up I think, no, I haven't heard anything, but I think breaking one of Tai Tuivasa's ribs with a kick, and then he just started to punish that body and then started picking apart Tuivasa with head strikes. And I mean, he ultimately got the finish. It was hard to watch. I mean, it was nice to see Cyril Gane get a win there for France with their first card ever over there.
Yeah, he hurt his body early, and that really did it for him. He couldn't put much together after that.
If you look at heavyweight, I know Curtis Blaydes tweeted out that he wants Cyril Gane, which I like Curtis Blaydes. He has a really tough wrestling style to beat, so I'm interested in that matchup myself. I don't know what we do. I know that they're talking about maybe John Jones in December, but I don't think anything's signed with Stipe for an interim belt while Francis is recovering from his surgery. I don't know if... I mean, it's hard because Tom Aspinall hurt his knee against Curtis Blaydes. That fight ended in like the first 10 seconds, and that was 4-6. So Curtis Blaydes stays up. I would like to see Cyril Gane and Curtis Blaydes. I think that fight makes sense. And if John Jones doesn't come back, I think Cyril Gane and Stipe would be a hell of a interim title fight.
Yeah, that'd be a good fight. I know I have seen some reports of Francis Ngannou possibly fighting by the end of the year, starting next year. By the end of this year?
I bet the UFC still kind of finds a way to screw him. I mean, they have a history of doing that with him as a champion. Mm-hmm. I don't know what Tai Tuivasa does. I mean, he can fight Sergey Palkovich. I fucked that up pretty bad, but he just beat Derek Lewis. I don't know. Maybe don't think we want to see Derek Lewis and Tuivasa 2. Maybe an Alexander Volkov would be a good one to watch.
Yeah, Tuivasa's coming off of at least a 4-fight win streak before his loss yesterday. Let me see here.
Yeah, it was a 5-fight win streak. The last time he lost, or the first time he lost, was when he was main carding a fight night with Junior Dos Santos. And so he's 0-2 as a headliner. But I mean, he's a big name. I mean, the fans love him. He has great energy. I just don't know what to do with that. Joaquin Buckley was a little bit disappointing. He outstruck his opponent, or threw more strikes. He didn't land more strikes, but he threw more. He got controlled on the ground. He had good leg kicks, but I don't know. I think Joaquin Buckley has the chance to be a big star, and this was kind of his big breakout fight. And he didn't come through like I thought he might.
No, he got beat up.
Last weekend was UFC 278, Salt Lake City, Utah.
2 weekends ago.
2 weekends ago, you're right. Yeah. Last week we had a break. It was a good 2 weekends. I don't think we can go without talking about Usman getting knocked out by Leon Edwards.
No, that was insane.
We were both there for that live in Salt Lake City, Utah at Vivant Arena. That was my second event that I've been to, and I've never felt anything like that arena when he knocked him out. I mean, there was almost like a moment of silence for a minute after it happened of everyone that was like, what the fuck just happened? Mm-hmm. And then it showed it, and everyone started going nuts. I mean, there was beer getting thrown, food. Oh, yeah, I saw T-shirts. I had to unbutton my shirt. I didn't stand up till we walked out.
Oh, really?
I was blown away, dude.
Dude, as soon as it happened, like, instinctively, I was up.
I just couldn't believe it. He was on his way to winning that fight. He seems to be in great spirits about it, though. He was on JRE.
Yeah, he does have a really good attitude about it.
But yeah, that was an electric night. Definitely one that I'll remember forever. I think hopefully the UFC comes back and that they enjoyed it.
Yeah, they should come back to Salt Lake. We sold it.
Dana White did say it compares to any other stadium, like T-Mobile Arena.
The way it's built, I think, is really nice for fighting.
I've heard that a lot too. Where we're at Vivant, it's more stacked up.
I think it's good for fighting. We had good seats, even though there were nosebleeds.
We were in the nosebleed section, but we were front row of nosebleeds. I mean, to be honest, I feel like if you're any lower, then you won't be able to see the whole octagon. Mm-hmm. So I really like those seats. I think that's where I'm going to sit in the future for all the other events that I end up going to.
The fans were crazy. Had some crazy guys sitting by us. I don't know about you.
We had a couple of kids and some high schoolers that were next to us, and then some, I don't know, 25, 26-year-olds sitting behind us. Those guys were going crazy. The kids all night next to us were saying that they wanted Leon to win. And then he won. They were going crazy. I got a couple of videos of them going crazy.
We had a guy next to us. He showed up to the fights already drunk.
He pre-gamed for the fights.
He pre-gamed the fights. Shows up shit-faced.
Honestly, the beer there wasn't too bad. In Vegas, it was $25 a beer. And here it was $12 a beer.
Oh, yeah, that's nice. Dude shows up shit-faced already. And he'd start coaching up his fighter. Like, he'd be yelling what he thinks the fighter should do. Everyone around us is cracking up at him. And then halfway through the fight, if his fighter was losing, he'd switch and start coaching up the other guy.
And be on the winning side. Like, he knew the sport very well.
Yeah, he knew the sport very well. He was a professional fighter, he told us.
He claimed to be a professional fighter.
For 6 years.
For 6 years, huh?
Yeah, honestly, Usman wouldn't have lost if he had this guy Bobby.
If he had him in the corner.
If he had Bobby in the corner.
Oh, goodness. Well.
But it was a historic night in Salt Lake City.
It really was. A top 2 upset in UFC history. Mm-hmm. And we were there for it.
Luke Rockhold retired.
Luke Rockhold retired, and he already put out a video just the other day saying, he's like, I'm retired, but I don't know if I can say goodbye forever. But I think he should stick to retirement.
Yeah, he probably ought to. You gotta respect everything he did, but...
Yeah, he did get in there with some killers. Some straight killers.
But you could tell in that fight that, like, halfway through it, you're like...
it was in the second round. He had his hands on his knees.
Yeah.
He was kind of sitting there huffing and puffing. Like, what the hell did I get? What did I get myself into? I mean, Paulo Costa's no joke.
And the altitude in Salt Lake City, I think, was getting to a lot of the fighters.
Some people said that, yeah. They said that they didn't expect the altitude to play such a role. I know Leon Edwards come 2 or 3 weeks before, and he still said it was a big factor.
Mm-hmm. And Usman does a lot of training in Denver. So he's used to the altitude already.
Yep. He does train with Trevor Whitman over there with Justin Gaethje and Rose Namajunas. It's been a solid, good 2 weeks of fighting, or 3 weeks of fighting, I guess, with the break. Next weekend we have a big card. I think you should come by here and watch it. We'll be watching UFC 279, September 10th. Las Vegas, T-Mobile Arena. Be a good one. Big card. Chimaev versus Nate Diaz, first non-title fight, main event of the year, I believe. I think you could stat check that, but I do believe that it's the first one this year without a title fight. Chimaev's a big name. And of course, Nate Diaz is as well. One of the few men that's beaten Conor McGregor. Just kind of looking over this card. And they've got some solid names on here. It's a big card. Good early prelims. I see they got Chris Barnett, who comes back. I don't know if you've seen a big old heavyweight do a 360 kick, but Chris Barnett, he has the potential to do that. He did that a couple fights ago. Knocked out his guy. Jamie Pickett's always fun to watch. Coming off a loss against Kyle Dawkins. He was winning a couple after that. See if he can bounce back. Got Johnny Walker and Ian Kutubella. I could have butchered that. Johnny Walker. Johnny Walker got kind of thrown up there. He's 1-4 in his last 5 fights. But I mean, against Corey Anderson, who's no joke. Nikita Krylov, who's definitely no joke. Beats Ryan Spann. Loses to Thiago Santos, who's no joke. A killer, a guy that I think had a split decision loss to John Jones at one point. I mean, a killer. And then Jamal Hill is a straight killer, and he's bursting up into the scene now as well. So this is a kind of a good reset fight. Kutubella's coming off a loss to Ryan Spann, who Johnny Walker has a win over. So that fight makes sense for Johnny Walker, I think, to get another win under his belt, get his confidence back. Because, I mean, he's good. His length is good. He uses 6'6". He uses his length really well. 82-inch reach. I mean, that is massive.
Yeah, that's a huge reach. I gotta make a quick correction. UFC 272 in March, Covington versus Masvidal was not a title fight event.
Oh, you're right. Okay. All right, you're right. That was a big fight too, though. Way to fact check me on that. Another women's fight. Macy Chiasson. She fought on the Oliveira Gaethje card. She is 3-1 in her last 4 fights in the UFC. See if she can get a win. Then we get to the bread and butter of this card. This is where it really heats up, and they added these two of the last 3 fights in the last week and a half. They got Kevin Holland versus Daniel Rodriguez. That is a big fight. When they were talking about Kevin Holland Wonderboy, I was saying no, he should fight like a Daniel Rodriguez, someone that's not ranked but is on the cusp of being ranked. He's got wins over Kevin Lee, Mike Perry, Davey Grant. Daniel Rodriguez is a really good boxer. And I think it'll be another good fight to get under Kevin Holland's welterweight wins.
Yeah, that'll be a really good fight.
I see Kevin Holland winning it. I mean, he was on a roll. I mean, he had 5 fights in 2020, 5 wins, all in 2020. Loses to Derek Brunson and then fights on short notice like 2 weeks later and loses to Vettori in matches he just got laid on. So I like his move to welterweight. I like that. He says he wants to fight at both, but I think it's kind of a fit for him. Daniel Rodriguez. I mean, these guys are good. Southpaw versus orthodox. 81-inch reach for Kevin Holland versus D-Rod's 74-inch reach. 6'3" for Kevin Holland, 6'1" for D-Rod. And this is a really, really big fight here. The co-main event for UFC 279. Liang versus Tony Ferguson. Tony Ferguson's move up to welterweight, which he's been very vocal about his last couple of fights that he wants to go up to 170. He wants to quit hurting his body, cutting weight. He thinks he's going to do better up there.
Yeah, he might.
I'm interested to see it. I mean, but Tony Ferguson was at the top. I believe it was a 12-fight win streak he was on. Interim champ, ends up losing to Justin Gaethje, and then he's on a 4-fight skid since he lost to Justin Gaethje.
Yeah, he was elite. It'd be nice to see him get healthy and get going again.
It would be take some time off. I mean, especially after that Michael Chandler knockout. That was a tough one for everyone to watch. I watched that live. That's the one that you should have been there for at the graduation. Versus Li Jingliang, an inch taller than Tony. I like Jingliang. He is 2-2 in his last 4. He's coming off a KO, but he did lose to Khamzat Chimaev, which obviously who's number ranked, I believe 2 or 3 now. I think Chimaev is an absolute animal.
Ferguson does have a nice reach advantage on him.
He does have the reach advantage, and Ferguson
5 inches.
Ferguson's the boogeyman, man. He's the boogeyman. He'll always be the boogeyman. It's hard to put him out. I mean, I know that Chandler knocked him out cold with a front kick. He caught him. But other than that, Justin Gaethje got a TKO, but that was on the feet that the ref stopped. It's going to be a good fight. I think Jingliang will want to come out and wrestle a little bit. And I think Tony's been drilling wrestling. He's been talking about how he's going back to his roots with his old high school wrestling coach. So I really have no idea how to predict that fight. That one's going to be a tough one. I'm excited for that.
I'd like to see Tony win that one.
I'd like to see him go on a tear at welterweight.
Yeah.
But I guess time will tell on that one. And then it's the main event. Khamzat Chimaev versus Nate Diaz.
This is Khamzat's fight to lose, really.
I don't even know how Khamzat's going to approach this fight. I don't know how hard he's training for this one, but the one thing about Nate Diaz is you can never count him out.
Never.
This dude's got cardio like no one other. You can't ever count out Nate Diaz, and I would love nothing more than for Nate Diaz to win this fight, to beat Khamzat Chimaev in the 5th round, because we saw the first time Chimaev looked human and was in his last fight with Gilbert Burns. Those guys went to a 3-round war. Mm-hmm. They both were dropped several times, so I'd love to see Nate Diaz take him in the 5th. I mean, that would be awesome. And then turn around and say goodbye to the UFC. I mean, they fed him straight to the Wolf. That's Chimaev's nickname, is the Wolf. I mean, they fed him right there to him. So I would love nothing more. I think when Chimaev wins this fight, depending on how Usman and Leon 3 goes, I don't know if he gets a title fight against Usman if Usman wins, or if he'll fight Leon. and get a title fight there. Or I would love to see him fight Colby. Completely eliminate the other one from title contention. I know I could be wrong, but I don't think Colby's beat anyone in the top 15 currently. Jorge Masvidal. He's beat Jorge Masvidal for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. You can't count Nate out of this fight.
No.
Especially because it's a 5-round fight. Those 4th and 5th rounds is where Diaz turns on. And Khamzat's never fought a 5-round fight. So he even had one of his 3-round fights go to the 3rd round.
I'm excited. I think he's got the gas tank, so I guess he's going to have to come in there training. He's never done a 5-round fight. And I know that he did get a little fatigued in his Gilbert Burns fight. He kind of talks like that. He says that was a bad performance by him and that he didn't even get hurt, but he was dropped several times. And I thought he had the chance of going out, a couple of them. Gilbert Burns is tough, man. I would really like to see Chimaev and Colby, and if it doesn't happen now, it'll happen in the future. That'll be a fight that'll for sure happen.
Who do you got for the rematch? When do you think the rematch will be?
In Leon and Usman?
Yeah. Leon Usman rematch.
I'm a sucker for the underdog story, but if I'm betting money, I'm gonna go with Usman, and I hope I eat these words. But Usman was controlling that fight. I mean, he was winning that fight. Other than the first round, Leon come out, took him down. That was great to see. But other than that, it was Usman's fight. They did what Usman wanted to do.
It was.
They danced where Usman wanted to dance at. And I just don't know if Leon can get it done again. But maybe he comes in there with more confidence. Like, he did knock this guy out.
Dude,
First person to knock him out. And
he does have the momentum and the confidence.
He showed that it's doable.
I think he's got better odds of winning this fight than he did.
I think the odds will be different for sure as well. He won't be near as much of an underdog.
And they'll be in England, most likely.
So you think Leon takes that?
I don't know. I think the odds are
So that being said, even after all that.
Yeah. The odds, I think, are still on Usman's side.
It just shows, it's just a testament to how good Usman is.
But I think Leon has a chance.
He has always got a chance. Anything can happen in 4-ounce gloves. Yeah. That's what Dana White always says, and it's true. Anything can happen, and that's the proof right there that weekend with that head kick. He set him up beautifully. There's videos of him drilling that before the fight.
Yeah, he's an expert striker. If you present him the opportunity, he can
really
end the fight in an instant.
Mm-hmm. And Usman had to make it a dirtier fight. He was in the clinch a lot, up in his face, because Leon can pick you apart like Cyril Gane did to Taito Ivasa, but Usman's too good of a fighter to allow that to happen, and he made it his fight. But I think that's about it for this week. We'll definitely be here next weekend after the UFC 279 Chimaev versus Diaz, and then we'll be previewing the next weekend. We got a couple. What's the next weekend after that? Corey Sandhagen and Song Yadong. That's a big fight. Got a Sadiq Youssef on there. Andre Feely. Joe Pyfer goes there after his contender series fight. So yeah, it's never been better to be a UFC fan, and I've said that for a while. I don't think it's ever been better to be a UFC UFC fan than right now.
We've got some good cards coming up.
Yep. October's pay-per-view is stacked. November's is stacked, and December's will be stacked. They always end the year great for their little layoff in January. But anyways, thank you guys for watching. Thanks for sitting here and chatting with me, Kobe. I always appreciate your time. We'll catch you guys next week.